Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty. I'm here as part of the design team over at the Counterfeit Kit Challenge, and I'm working on challenge number 1, even though I'm a little behind. And our challenge today was to use a bird, and that totally made me think of the old Portlandia TV show, and since I live near Portland, Oregon, that meme of put a bird on it popped into my head. So enjoy that, and then we'll get started with our layout.
But you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna put birds on things.
Putting a bird on this teapot.
It's a bird. I bet you it's flying all over the beach. I'm gonna put this bird right on this card.
It's so pretty.
You like that, ma'am?
Fantastic.
So here is how I am getting my bird on my layout, and this is a window sticker that my kids made from a kit many years ago, and it's been in my kitchen window. And I thought because my floral embellishments that I did in my monthly makes video, I will link you up to that if you haven't seen that, are very similar style. So those are going to make it onto my layout today. And how else can I get birds on here? I do have bird papers in my kit. And I thought because my bird is red and blue, I would go with this particular sheet of blue birds. And because I don't have a big story to tell, I'm going to make an 8.5 by 11 page layout. This has kind of been my goal for quite a while, is to shrink my page sizes down. Not that I will eliminate 12 by 12 altogether, especially since I'm finding that I'm having a hard time getting to the regular 8.5 by 11. So it's just a process for me, and that's the plan for today. So I pulled out a contrasting sheet of paper to layer, and then I pulled out one more piece, and I'm not sure if I'm going to use that. In fact, later in the video, I end up dropping it out. I've got more floral embellishments from my kit, and I will link you up to my kit build in case you don't know about that. It's part of the Counterfeit Kit Challenge, and that's a totally free group, mostly hosted on Facebook, so if you want to check us out, you will have links to that as well. All right, here I am trimming down my bird paper to 8.5 by 11, and I don't need to show you all the cutting, but I've got my piece ready, and then this will be my contrasting piece to nest my photo, and I want to make an arch of florals around just the left edge of my photo, and then my title will be at the top and my journaling at the bottom. And as I'm looking at this, I decide my photo, I still want to have more contrast between that wood grain layer. And so I go off screen and I think about it, and I decide to just cut a skinny border of white. And while I'm off screen, I also go ahead and do my title. I know I wanted to use a lot of arrows on this layout also, although I don't end up using them how I thought I would, because there's several elements in the photo that I wanted to point to with my arrows. But I ended up using this big fabric arrow that I cut with my Cricut a long time ago, and I liked it, and I thought, what an interesting way to nest my title. The problem was it was still blending too much into the background, so I'm trying to find some layers to kind of help it pop up off the background. And there you can see my tiny mat from my photo, and that does help things flow better that way. And now it's a process of figuring out this floral wreath, and I do it once just so you can see the process, and then I do take everything off to start adhering things down. And I didn't take a picture of my floral arch. I'm not even going to call it a wreath, it's just an arch. And so when I put it back on the second time around, it comes out different, and that's okay, because sometimes after you're looking at things, you decide that things could move anyway. All right, so here's where I had taken everything off. I permanently glued my title down. Because that is felt fabric, it needs a lot of glue and time to dry because the glue just soaks right into the felt. So I'm going to glue that to my paper and use some more magnets to help all of that stay in place while I work on the rest of the layout. Luckily, the magnets aren't so tight. I can like drag and move my layout around carefully and still be able to work on the rest. Now, I won't show you the whole arrangement of this floral arch again, but I do want to show you one little tip. I have these shank style buttons, which is this little loop on the back, which allows you to sew them onto clothing. Not so convenient for putting on layouts, but if you ever have some of these in your stash or you come across them at a yard sale or something, you can cut those shanks off with the metal die cutter, the metal cutters that you use to cut dies apart, or used to use to cut dies apart. They don't exist that way anymore, but if you have a set of metal cutters for jewelry or dies in your stash, you can cut the shanks off of buttons. All right, I did find a piece that I wanted to pull in for my journaling, and I'm definitely going with a lot of blue on this layout. Now my floral cluster is going to have other colors in there, and so I'm going to try and make sure I balance those colors out. And this is where it was kind of handy that I had to take all those flowers off, because I did find a better balance with, there's some pops of yellow and there's a little bit of pop of green and a couple of pops of teal. So I was able to kind of balance those out. Now I found some little metal brads in my stash, and here is how I like to do brads. I put a little cushion underneath of just leftover packaging, and then I poke a hole and open up my brads on the back, and then I like to tape over the prongs of the brad, because those can snag as you're sliding them in and out of page protectors. So that makes it much more convenient if you happen to have any brads in your stash. I know those are not very common these days, especially as brad style elements are moving to adhesive backed instead of prongs, but they are more affordable. So if you come across some, you have a little bit of tip on how to use them. Okay, I was saying, as my arch kind of starts up with my arrows, curves around the left, and then I want to kind of keep that visual flow going a little bit through my journaling block. So I added just a little bit down there on the right. I did get a couple of arrows pointing to some of the elements that I talk about in my journaling. I make sure everything is glued down solidly, and then that completes the layout for this time around. All right, so that is my bird card for you. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of my sense of humor in there. I will link you up down below to the full Portlandia video. It does get a little awkward at the end, but if you've got that kind of sense of humor, go ahead and check it out if you don't already know what it is. I will be back very soon with another layout process video for you, so I hope you will join me then. And until then, have an artful day.